This is a CNN Philippines special presentation, Just the Facts. I'm Pia Ontiveros. New protocols and precautionary measures are now in place to stop the spread of COVID-19 in the country. Whatever you call them, whether a lockdown or a community quarantine, it's important to understand what's happening, how these travel restrictions will be implemented, and how we can, as a community, keep going in these challenging times. Admittedly, there is plenty of confusion going around. Cabinet Secretary Cordon tried to explain the difference between a lockdown and a community quarantine in today's briefing in Malacanang. Our AC Nichols joins us live. AC, tell us, how are these terms explained?
President Duterte himself used the word lockdown when he made the announcement last night, but now his people are telling us that word is not accurate in this situation. They want us to use community quarantine instead, and it's because medical experts advising the government would rather stick to medical terms. We are in the middle of a health crisis, and for them, community quarantine is the right term for these measures against the pandemic. Anyway, Pia, these are just semantics. The more important question is, what's really going to happen beginning March 15th? Closed roads, guarded borders, police checkpoints. These are possible scenarios for the decision to restrict travel to and from Metro Manila.
Ang mag-layout niyan lahat would be DILG. But yes, obviously we'll have to put men in uniform, mga police, dun sa mga borders natin. When I say borders, I mean borders between NCR and different regions.
Travel in and out the metropolis will be banned. If you're arriving through NAIA and you're heading to the provinces, that's a no-go.
They can go to the other international airports that are not under the community quarantine of NCR.
People are seen hoarding food and other personal products, apparently afraid that supplies will run out. Authorities say this will not happen. They say transportation of goods will not be disrupted. The same goes for work and general services. That means offices, restaurants, banks, and malls will be open.
Dahil bukas po yun, definitely yung mga pag-supply ho, the supply of goods, both food and non-food, mga cargos can move in and out.
The interagency body handling the government's response to the coronavirus pandemic is still finalizing how to carry out the emergency measures. Pia, there's no word on exactly when authorities will be issuing these guidelines, but earlier today, Cabinet Secretary Cordon said they will try to come up with it by tonight. At the same time, he said it could take longer considering the amount of planning that this new measure will take. Pia?
So AC, by tonight, or like you said, could take longer, but we have less than 48 hours before March 15.
That's right, Pia. But when we asked authorities earlier if they could give us a copy of the guidelines, they said that would depend on how long, or that would depend on the IATF meeting that's happening today. And considering the amount of planning, Pia, they couldn't give us an exact answer on when they could give us those details. Of course, they do know that everyone's awaiting the guidelines because a lot of people are getting affected. The interagency meeting handling the government response against this pandemic is going to meet every day. That means even if they issue guidelines, Pia, nothing is going to be set in stone. The COVID-19 situation is developing, so the guidelines could also change day to day. The interagency body is going to meet every day, as I said, and it promises to be transparent, to let us know if there are new decisions or new possible measures, and we will report those information as soon as we get them, Pia.
All right, AC Nichols there reporting live from Malacanang. Joining us now here in the studio is presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo. Sir, welcome to the show.
Good evening, Pia.
Good evening, sir. Well, let's begin with this, sir. Malacanang today, you don't want to call it a lockdown, but the president still used that word yesterday. Today, like AC Nichols was
Community
explaining.
quarantine.
Yes, community quarantine ang termino daw dapat na gamitin. Because, however, a lot of people are saying, but it is a lockdown because that is what it amounts to.
No, not really. Because
So it doesn't amount to even a lockdown.
Gumagalaw pa rin lahat. Meron pa rin food, meron pa rin cargos.
Oo. Makakapasok pa rin ang mga tao na nagtatrabaho dito sa Metro Manila pero nakatira sa mga
paano
lalawigan,
naging
karating.
lockdown
Oh. So hindi siya talaga lockdown. So why was the president saying, but it is a lockdown, but let's not call it a lockdown kasi
parang
takot kayo.
lockdown in one sense. Pero actually talagang hindi. Siguro mag-lockdown na lang tayo sa mga haka-haka natin.
Okay. Well, maybe because the president himself used the word yesterday
Parang in passing, yes.
in past. So what
Is important is this. These are stringent measures
Yes,
to arrest
definitely.
the spread. Yun ang mas mahalaga doon. And it's being done because the president and the government want to secure the safety and health of our people.
But if you were going to secure the safety and health of people and what you want to do is contain the spread or contain COVID-19 within Metro Manila, because after all, a majority of the 52 cases are here in Metro Manila, then why then are we, so, even if we are going to, lock off or whatever, close off the borders for Metro Manila, why are we going to still allow people who live in the nearby provinces to come in? Why are we still going to allow cargo to come in? Why are we still going to allow food deliveries to
Doon lang
come
yun sa
in?
those who are working here and living, for instance, in nearby towns like Bulacan or Cavite. Hindi naman yung galing ng Cebu or what.
Oo. Yes.
So pwede pa rin yun kasi may trabaho sila. Yun ang exemption doon.
But what are the chances that they could be bringing in the virus itself? Or because the idea was,
That is precisely why meron tayong social distancing na tinatawag. You have to avoid crowds. Binuksan mo nga lahat ng mga establishments, pero nandun pa rin ang protocol na may social distancing. Like yung mga mass gathering, hindi pa pwede. Lahat.
yeah, well,
Except sa simbahan, we can only... Although the Archbishop yata of Manila...
the Archdiocese of Manila has announced,
already
yes. No
been
masses
announced,
for a certain period of
But
time.
actually, pwede naman sila mag-misa eh. All they have to do is to have more masses para yung tao, spread din. Kasi right now, mga alas 6 lang, alas 5, after that, wala na. Pwede naman sila starting 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, di ba? Pwede naman lahat gawa ng paraan.
Okay. Well, when we talk about blocking, for example, NLEX and SLEX, the main entry and exit points of Metro Manila, a lot of people are asking, so where will the checkpoints be, for example? And this was brought up earlier in today's press conference. Tinanong rin din ito.
Sino tinanong niyo?
Well, I wasn't there. Yung mga government officials were there, no? And
Sino nga
hindi pa na
sino sumagot?
Oo. Hindi pa nga nalalaman kung saan exactly daw yung mga checkpoints.
Sino nga tinanong niyo kasi?
No, I wasn't there at the press conference. It's another
baka they were
reporter.
asking
Oo.
the wrong people. Kasi
Asking the wrong
dapat,
people.
ang tatanungin mo, pagdating doon sa mga checkpoints, dapat yung DILG secretary. Kasi siyang may hawak ng PNP.
Okay.
Diba?
Yeah. So, in other words, what's happening is madali ang paglalatag ng plano
Yes,
ng implementation.
Correct, because
Ganun ba?
time
Because
is of the essence. Time of the essence. Pag yan hindi mo napigilan ngayon, may problema tayong malaki.
Okay. A few hours before the president's press conference last night, the memorandum, the resolution number 11, series of
IATF.
2020, March 12, 2020 of the IATF, circulated on social media. It was being passed on left and right through even chat groups, Viber, etc. A lot of people were asking, ito na ba yun? Ito na ba yun? No? And then, syempre, hindi ito ma-verify, hindi ito ma-authenticate until during that press conference of the president, he began to read and lift very heavily from this memorandum, resolution. So what happened? During that meeting, ito ang prinisent sa kanya at tinanggap niya ito lahat
Yeah,
with a few tweaks.
correct. Kaya lang siguro may nag-leak. May nakakuha ang isang kopya tapos inilabas sa media, kaya umikot. Yun lang yun.
May nag-leak ba or talagang pinaleak?
No.
Parang pina-float para nga malaman kung ano ba yung...
definitely not. In fact, we were reacting Kung bakit na-leak. Kaya ngayon, grabe na ang protocol pag nag-meeting ka. Wala lahat ng mga telepono nyo.
Aha, okay. Last night also he said at the very beginning of that press conference that he said, this resolution, I'm going to make an EO out of this.
Yes.
Where is the EO now?
Ginagawa.
By who?
By the Office of the Executive Secretary.
Aha, okay. And at when are we going to see the EO itself?
Hindi, kasi right now, galing ako doon sa meeting, nagmi-meeting pa. So, pagkatapos ng meeting, hindi gagawin na yun.
Okay. And it is going to, list down everything the president said and read because he, like I was saying, he lifted
Yun na
heavily
rin
from
yun.
it, but
Actually,
tweets also.
yung EO would be just like that. Yun din yun.
Yeah, okay.
Pinagmi-meetingan kasi dahil there were certain questions raised. Like, ano ba yung mass gathering? Kasama ba wedding dyan? So, yun ang pinaplansya ng gusto.
Okay. So kasama ba ang wedding doon?
Kasama.
Kasama.
Kasi usually naman, mga wedding mo, 300 people 300, 200, 300, hanggang 800. Kaya nga yung wedding ng isang artista, di ba, kinancel dapat bukas.
Okay. Imbitado po ba kayo doon?
Sponsor.
Ninong. Okay. Sige, Ninong, sandali lang po. We need to take in this report. When the president addressed the nation last night, Mr. Duterte said he would seek the help of the military and the police to properly implement these travel restrictions. The hope, of course, is to prevent the spread of COVID-19, especially given that the majority of confirmed cases so far, like we were saying earlier, are here in Metro Manila. Our senior correspondent, David Santos, joins us live from Camp Caringal, which is the home of the Quezon City Police District. David?
Well, Pia, tonight, Metro Manila authorities giving us a preview of the initial plans when the community quarantine order of the president takes effect this Sunday. Officials from both the regional police and the military prepare about a dozen protocols detailing how the security cordon will be implemented, among them closing down all of the major as well as smaller roads leading to and from Metro Manila. This will include, of course, the North and South Luzon expressways, as well as roads on the eastern side of Metro Manila, as we all know, connect to adjacent cities and provinces here in Luzon. Now, it is expected that vehicles will still pass through these roadblocks. Members of the PNP's Regional Mobile Force, who will be assisted by military units, will man now these checkpoints. The proposal will require motorists and passengers of each and every vehicle that will pass through to submit themselves to thermal scanning and even questioning. Now, if Metro Manila Police Chief Police Major General Debold Sinas can have his way, there should be no exemptions to these protocols.
Kasi kung sabihin mo nga, lahat na lang exempted, baka lahat mag-apply ng exemption, parang wala lang. So, hindi na kami mag-block. Okay? Yun yung purpose na i-block para to limit the movement of people. However, we are not stopping yung mga goods and services para hindi naman po magkagulo.
Now, aside from goods and services, there's also the question on what will happen to workers who live outside of Metro Manila and who come to the city to work during the daytime. Now, as General Sinas points out, their proposals are still subject for approval from the PNP hierarchy in Camp Crame, meaning these are just initial proposals. Officials here are aware that these stringent measures will be met with questions and even opposition. Now, they hope to finalize the security protocols at least by Saturday, since the order takes effect by the strike of midnight of Sunday.
It's a national security issue. Our way of life will really change because of this. There may be negatives, but I think there will also positives. Siguro napansin nyo, walang traffic ngayon sa EDSA.
The PNP or the NCRPO is deploying about 26,000 policemen, while about 3,000 soldiers will come from the Joint Task Force NCR Command of the AFP. A sizable number of these policemen and soldiers will secure the checkpoints, but majority will still be scattered all over Metro Manila to ensure that there will be no breakdown of law and order during this quarantine period. Pia.
David, of course, these aren't going to be ordinary road or street checkpoints. How complicated can this be? Because For example, you have people coming in on buses, those who live in sa mga karatig ng probinsya, dito nagtatrabaho. So, ang ibig sabihin nito, isa-isa iboboard yung mga bus para i-check, isa-isa lahat ng pasahero.
That's right, Pia. Firstly, before these guidelines could be finalized, the PNP hierarchy and even the interagency will have to review all these proposals and then approve it. Now, if we take it from General Sinas, it remains unclear who will be exempted and how these exemptions will be granted. There is assurance, though, that those providing goods and services will be among those allowed to pass through what General Sinas now calls border control. Now, border controls. But how about, there's also the question about those living in the adjacent provinces, like you pointed out. Those come to Metro Manila to work during daytime. How about the frontline workers, like those doctors and nurses who are also from the provinces and come to Metro Manila for work? Also, how about residents from outside NCR who seek medical attention in Metro Manila facilities? Now, all these remain unanswered since the guidelines have yet to be approved and finalized. Secondly, Pia, as a response to your question, those who will go through these quarantine checkpoints will have to brace through for major traffic. Now, since motorists and passengers will have to be thoroughly inspected and even questioned, it will take so much time. Now, let's keep in mind that the policemen and soldiers who will be wearing protective gears like face masks, goggles, and gloves will have to keep a meter distance from the motorists while carrying out their tasks. It will not be like the regular checkpoints where we normally breeze through every time. Now, this will be different. It will be very inconvenient to the public, but we also have to remember the tough work our authorities will have to put into these measures, Pia.
David Santos there reporting. Secretary Panelo, so what are we going to do now? Well, as David was reporting, the police are coming up with those guidelines and ang daming mangyayaring exemptions talaga. I mean, as David was explaining.
Exempted lang naman yung magtatrabaho.
Paano nga, for example, and this is a very legitimate situation. There are some people who live in the nearby provinces and come for medical treatment, dialysis, for example, here in Metro Manila. What about them?
Kung talagang for medical treatment, pwede yun. Pero naman, bihirang-bihira naman yan. Mukhang mga exceptional circumstances naman yun.
Okay. So, and where would they get those exemptions kaya? I mean, ano yung magiging mechanics nito?
Kung may doktor ka, ang kailangan mo lang, medical certificate.
Okay. So, parang everybody will just go through a very thorough check.
Oo, kasi alam mo, Pia, this has been done in Korea, in China, in where else? Macau. In Macau, it's zero casualty for the last 35 days. Nag-impose sila ng gano'n. Mas grabe pa. Sa atin nga, medyo hindi pa masyado eh. But we really have to sacrifice, cooperate. More on cooperation. Kasi it's for us. The President is very concerned with our safety and health.
Okay. Of course, we're talking not just about the main entry points, NLEX and SLEX, dahil marami pa namang ibang pwedeng pasok. So, pati yan lahat?
Lahat yan.
Iko-cover yan lahat. All right. Secretary Panelo, thank you very much.
Thank you also
for being with us tonight. You're watching Just the Facts on COVID-19. When we return, how are travel plans affected by the government's new emergency measures? We'll go live to the Araneta bus terminal in Quezon City. Also, a state of calamity in that city, what it all means and how the local government is addressing the needs of the people. We'll have a live report.
With the novel coronavirus spreading in different parts of the world, many are asking questions about common terms related to the virus. One of the terms is self-quarantine. With COVID-19, the recommended period to self-quarantine is 14 days. Health authorities are advising anyone who may have been exposed to someone with a confirmed case of COVID-19 to self-quarantine, or those who have traveled to countries with confirmed cases of the novel coronavirus. It doesn't matter if you have any symptoms or not, and it also doesn't mean that if you are in self-quarantine, you're also automatically sick. The idea is to take that extra precautionary step. Anyone in self-quarantine is advised to stay in their own homes, drink lots of water, eat well, and sleep well. As much as possible, stay in one room, so you also protect the people you're living with. Avoid sharing food, towels, and utensils. Wear a face mask as much as possible. And if you experience any symptoms, go see a doctor. But first, alert your doctor about your condition to allow him or her to prepare. A person in self-quarantine should not be out and about, engaging with other people. So, no work, school, and other social events and activities. Self-quarantine is about taking care of yourself and protecting those who are around you, just in case. Ruth Cabal, CNN Philippines.
I'm Pia Ontiveros. Just the facts today. Questions are mounting about the so-called community quarantine, which many are saying is the same as a lockdown anyway. All of this happening amid the growing misinformation on COVID-19. Land, air, and sea travel restrictions in and out of Metro Manila will take place beginning Sunday, March 15. These measures will be in place until April 14. Classes in all levels will remain suspended until April 12. Social distancing is encouraged, mass gatherings prohibited. Also, local government units can impose localized quarantine as needed. Well, the new travel restrictions to contain the coronavirus pandemic take effect on Sunday. How are these new measures affecting travel plans? Or better yet, what travel plans? Our Tristan Adalo is at the Araneta bus terminal in Quezon City. Tristan?
Pia, it's like holiday rush here at the Araneta bus terminal in Quezon City. Passengers hurrying to leave Metro Manila before the month-long travel restriction takes effect on Sunday. Unmindful of the crowd and the influx of passengers bound for the provinces at the Araneta bus terminal in Quezon City, Michelle Ceylona, her sister and children waste no time getting the earliest bus trip available to Albay.
Iiwasan po ng coronavirus. Natatakot na kami at abot ng 15 baka okay lang kasi baka matatakot na kami. Oo, dami namamatay.
Like Michelle, Ronald Buenaflor also decided to leave Metro Manila and bring his family to Nueva Ecija before borders are closed on Sunday.
Kaya ipapauwi ko sila sa Nueva Ecija para tuloy-tuloy yung pamamasada ko. Abulin ko lang bago po magsara yung Metro Manila.
Their father is undergoing treatment, but the family of Maki Madayag decided to cut it short so that they can leave Manila. They say they don't want to be stuck in the region when the travel ban takes effect.
Uuwi na kami kasi lockdown daw po. Kasi matatrap kami dito, mahirap na yung walang mga tindahan, tapos may pasyente pa kami.
Transport officials have yet to come up with the guidelines on the travel ban and how it will affect those living outside Metro Manila.
We need to differentiate kasi yung mga lockdown na sinasabi. One example of lockdown is in Italy, for example.
Yeah.
Ito yung buong region ni lockdown with 15 million people na you can go around, may mass transport, etc. Pero nobody can go in or out of that region.
For the Provincial Bus Operators Association of the Philippines, with 43 members or at least 15,000 bus units nationwide, it is considering pulling out units during the ban.
Dadalhin mo na sa probinsya yan kasi kung nandito sa Manila yan, hindi mo naman magagamit yan
The bus group says that the restriction will impact at least 1 million passengers.
Lahat ng biyahe na galing ng probinsya na papasok ng Manila, for the meantime, susunod kami doon sa directive ng presidente, wala mo ng biyahe papasok ng Manila.
Some of the commuters here say that they are still willing to wait until they can get a bus trip, and then they said that one of the biggest concerns that they have right now is the rising numbers of COVID-19 cases in Metro Manila. So what they will do, they will ask their employers if they will be allowed to do the work from home scheme from the province. Pia.
Tristan Nodalo there reporting. The population, or Metro Manila's population, is 12 million. That swells to 15 million during the course of the day when people from all parts of the country, or at least those in the nearby provinces, travel in and out of the metro. Also known as the National Capital Region, Metro Manila is composed of 16 cities and 1 municipality. You see them all there on the map. He would like to show you some of the major roads that lead motorists in and out of Metro Manila, and that is in anticipation of Sunday's travel restrictions. These include expressways, which link the region to the nearby provinces of Bulacan, Laguna, and Cavite, among others. That is, of course, the North Luzon and the South Luzon expressways. Now, aside from the expressways, MacArthur and Quirino highways in Quezon City are other entry and exit points. In the south, Las Piñas City is connected to Cavite through Molino and Emilio Aguinaldo highways, while the Anghari and Manila South Road in Muntinlupa will take motorists to and from Laguna. In the east, Marcos Highway in Marikina and Ortigas Avenue Extension in Pasig City border Rizal Province. People are flocking to the country's main gateway, hoping to book a flight to their provinces before travel restrictions take effect on Sunday. Pauline Versosa has more.
40-year-old Juliet Punay is just one of thousands of passengers trying to rebook their domestic flights out of Metro Manila. She's scheduled to depart for Cebu on March 28th, but is hoping to find an earlier flight in the wake of travel restrictions from March 15 to April 12.
Baka pwede bukas. Mas maganda na sa probinsya. Kaya sinadya na namin para masigurado. Kasi wala useless yung hotline na binibigay nila
On Thursday, President Rodrigo Duterte declared a community quarantine in Metro Manila that will suspend all domestic travels by land, air, and sea beginning Sunday. Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles clarified that international flights will still operate at NAIA, but those coming from abroad will not be allowed to leave Metro Manila. Entry restrictions will also be imposed on those arriving from countries with localized COVID-19 transmission, except for Filipino citizens.
Ulitin ko, Filipino citizens, including their foreign spouse and children, holders of permanent resident visas, and holders of diplomatic visas issued by the Philippine government are welcome to the Philippines. The ultimate destination is in the provinces. We suggest you fly in via Clark, Cebu, and other airports not under quarantine, so you can proceed to your ultimate destination in the provinces.
Airlines have confirmed they will cancel all domestic flights at NAIA from March 15 to April 14, but will continue international and domestic flights from other hubs, including Clark, Cebu, and Calibo. For passengers with canceled flights, airlines are now offering free rebooking, rerouting, and conversion into travel credits. And so far, only Philippine Airlines and AirAsia are offering full refunds.
There are volumes of requests already coming in via our online customer support system. That is why we ask for the patience of guests when they try to rebook with us.
Outside this ticketing office, hundreds of passengers await for their numbers to be called. Some have lined up as early as 4 in the morning just to rebook their flights to an earlier or later date. It's a nightmare, as some of them would say, and this situation has even forced others to look for alternative travel options just to get to their destinations.
Kung pwede mag-travel, halimbawa through Batangas, mag-roll lang ako, pwede naman yun. Yung nila dito lang sa Metro Manila, no? Kasi Laguna lang kami.
Kahit basta makasakay lang kami. Wala kasi kami kamag-anak dito Nagpunta lang kami dito, nagpa-doktor. Tapos lang kami, nangupahan lang kami.
The suspension on domestic travels will still be reviewed on a daily basis, according to Nograles. If the situation improves, the ban may be lifted sooner or extended further if the pandemic gets worse. Pauline Versosa, CNN Philippines.
Joining us here in the studio is Jaime Flor Cruz, former CNN International Bureau Chief in Beijing and now a professor at Peking University. Good to see you, Jimmy. Thank you for being here.
Glad to be here.
Well, right now, the moment you're stranded here in Manila.
Yes.
In the same, 30 years plus ago, you were stranded in Beijing.
The other way around.
The other way around. Now stranded in Manila because you were supposed to return to Beijing.
I was. Back. Last month, I was supposed to go back and teach again, but I can't go back, so I've canceled my semester's course this time.
Okay. Well, it's really important that you're here today because, and this is something you believe in, it's very important to talk about health crisis communication.
Yes.
So in other words, Jimmy, tama ba yung, the way I understand it, you have the COVID-19 scenario, the situation, the crisis, if you will, that's being handled by the health experts, the health frontliners, the doctors, the nurses. But you also have the crisis communication that is in conjunction, that is part of the whole scenario.
Well,
right?
Pia, I went through the SARS epidemic 17 years ago. I went through the bird flu epidemic in China, and it was a horrific experience because you're dealing with an invisible yet unknown virus.
Like an enemy.
Like an
And
enemy.
yeah, sometimes
yes.
it's easier if you can see your enemy,
Correct.
right?
This one you
hindi
can't.
mo makita eh.
And COVID-19 is even worse than SARS, it seems. So, but there's one thing that's still the same, which is crisis communication. What is important in crisis communication is to be able to assure the public that you have a cohesive, well thought out plan that can be executed by competent people that can deal with the epidemic. You have to be very patient, but also you have to show empathy. Empathy for those who will be disrupted, whose lives will be disrupted, the poor, the marginalized, the vulnerable, the informal settlers, those who rely on day jobs. So I think you're asking a lot of sacrifice from these people, and they deserve to be assured that you have a plan, a coherent plan, and that it can be executed as seamlessly as possible.
So when President Duterte addressed the nation last night, and I'm sure you monitored that, did he come across, did the administration come across as someone or something that had a cohesive, coherent plan A, B, C, D, E, and then options A, B, C, D, E, all the way down to Z? And was it well communicated? And was it communicated that there are competent people who are going to be in charge of this? That there is going to be a conductor, may magtitimon, walang mangyayaring malaking gulo, in other words. In other words, was it assuring? Was it reassuring?
Well, I think the fact that we are still discussing a lot of the details, a lot of the questions that came out of that press conference, it seems to me that something was lacking from that press conference. One is that, yes, there were competent people around him in the press conference, but I wish we had heard from some of them, from the doctors, from the spokespersons of different departments. The key is actually to send the message that we are on top of things, that this is serious, but we will get over this. You may have the best of plans, but you need...
But if you don't communicate it well?
You don't communicate well, and you need to get everybody of the country in sync with that plan, because you're asking a lot of sacrifice. And only when they know why you need to make those sacrifices will you be able to get everybody on board. They also need to know that this is temporary. These measures are temporary, and we will get over this. This too shall pass. Those are very important messages that I think the government needs to send.
How important are words? Yes, last night the president himself used the word lockdown, and he said, "Oh, this is not a lockdown, but it is a lockdown kasi takot kayo sa salita na yon." And then words like community quarantine came out, lockdown, etc. And then you have the travel restrictions.
Right.
How are we supposed to understand?
Words matter. The same way that you don't use pandemic lightly. The WHO took many days before they started to use pandemic. Same as lockdown or quarantine. But you have to be upfront. If it's a lockdown, then call it a lockdown. It doesn't matter. I think the public will understand as long as you are clear, coherent, and you are transparent. The key is that people should know that you are being transparent and that this communication is open, and that this is a well thought out plan. That's very important.
If that is communicated, that we have a plan, it is cohesive, it is coherent, it is going to be carried out by competent people, we have options all the way from A to Z, and if something goes wrong, we have a fallback plan, etc., and this is how we're going to do it. If that is communicated, then therefore people should not be panicking.
Yes.
And therefore not panic buying, not hoarding, not nothing.
Fear fear can kill people. There's this anecdote that says, in one neighborhood, one resident one morning came out and saw Mr. Grim Reaper arrive, and so he mustered enough courage and walked up to him. "Why are you here?" And the Grim Reaper said, I'm going to kill 50,000 people tonight. So the resident was so scared, he went back and told his neighbors, the Grim Reaper is here, he's going to kill 50,000 tonight. That night, 500,000 people died. So the next morning, he saw a Grim Reaper walking out of walking away from the neighborhood. And so he accosted Grim Reaper. Why did you tell me you're going to kill 50,000? In fact, 500,000 people died. And the Grim Reaper said, I killed 50,000. The others died of fear. And I think that's why it's important that people are calmed down and do not panic buying. You know, I was talking with a taxi driver yesterday and says, you know, people are panic buying. I can only panic. I can't afford to buy and hoard. Right. So such anecdote, I think, shows that people are still not getting it. People are not assured that there is a plan and that we will get over this.
Yeah, and that's what you also mean by empathy, no? Empathy of, well, ordinary civilians like us, no? So that, because if we do panic buying, if we go into panic buying mode, and if we do hoard, that is going to take away from others, right?
Yes,
and the sad thing, like you said, like this taxi driver, not everybody can afford to hoard or to buy groceries and food for the next 2 months and store it.
Correct.
Or these are minimum daily wage earners.
And the informal settlers who are squeezed in tiny houses without running water, you know, they are dealing with very basic problems and they need help too. The small entrepreneurs, you know, they're losing money. They're going to lose a lot of money. 1 month is very long to ask from them to close down, for example. Yeah. They need help too.
Yeah, Jimmy, we have a lot more to talk about. But first, just moments ago, Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte declared a state of calamity. Our Anjo Alimario joins us on the phone to explain what this means. Anjo.
Hi, Pia. Yeah, Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte just announced an hour ago that the city is now under a state of calamity due to coronavirus. Now, what does this mean? Why is this important? Well, this will authorize the release of the city's quick response fund for 142 barangays in Quezon City. We asked her how much, but Belmonte says she has no idea as of now. But this will help barangays to access their quick response fund so they don't have to depend on a long bidding process and rely on the city government. And this declaration will also allow barangays to do emergency procurement. And Belmonte is saying that they will orient barangay officials so they know how to use it properly and not abuse the power given to them. So tomorrow, Pia, there will be a meeting of all 142 barangay captains where the quick response funds will be discussed extensively. You have different city officials attending that meeting. Now, Belmonte is also saying that she will be prohibiting mass gatherings. You have weddings and birthdays in different hotels here in Quezon City. In fact, she already received calls from hotels, but she told them to reschedule or to move those events in their hotels. And I also asked her if masses and worship services, just like, for example, in Iglesia ni Cristo, are included. And she says yes. She explains if these mass gatherings push through, police can come in and disperse the crowd. Now, children are also prohibited from visiting the malls except when they're with their parents, but she's discouraging parents from bringing their children in the mall. So far, there are still 6 COVID-19 cases in Quezon City. She says the 6 cases are from 6 different barangays, and she also plans to set up checkpoints in Quezon City, Pia.
Anja, these mass gatherings, like you were saying, parties, for example, the hosts themselves, I've heard of quite a bit of them, are canceling or postponing these scheduled parties, weddings, etc. And it's not just in Quezon City, it's all over the metropolis, all over Metro Manila and some parts of the country.
Well, that's right, Pia, and Mayor Belmonte is saying to the hotels that, you know, this is just for a month, and you can adjust your events just to really contain and to safeguard the lives of people attending these possible events in your hotels. And this her appeal to those hotels which are calling her, Pia.
And of course, the reason for, and let's just repeat that, very important to say that again, the reason why mass gatherings are not just discouraged but are prohibited is because not having them will slow down the speed of the infection, right? Yung pagkakalat ng virus.
That's right, Pia. Yeah, now we're of course implementing the social distance, and when you have these crowded rooms or event spaces, and there's the really higher risk of acquiring coronavirus, Pia.
All right, Anjo Alimario there joining us on the phone. Now, in other parts of the country, local government officials are also implementing precautionary measures. The Davao City government prohibits residents from leaving the area to avoid catching the coronavirus disease. Mayor Sara Duterte, however, clarifies this is not a lockdown as people are still allowed to enter the city. Transient visitors are urged to leave immediately, but the general public are discouraged from coming to Davao until the state of public health emergency is lifted. The mayor defends the measure, saying the city has limited health facilities in case of a local outbreak. Police intercepted 2 overseas Filipino workers who escaped from where they were under quarantine in Gian, Sarangani province. The 2, who are siblings, fled yesterday and went to Davao City to try and catch a flight to Manila. They were supposed to go back to Japan. The 2 arrived in the country last month and had to go through quarantine procedures. Health personnel are monitoring several local officials in Santo Visayas following the second COVID-19 case in the region. The positive case is a local official in a town in Negros Oriental. He attended a convention in Pasay City with colleagues from Central Visayas and other regions on February 27. The regional health office said there are 125 persons under monitoring, including local officials. The first COVID-19 case in the region was a Chinese woman who recovered from the disease in Bohol in January. Still in Central Visayas, at least 64 employees lost their jobs following the temporary closure of a restaurant and a manpower service firm impacted by COVID-19. The Labor Department said the displaced workers will be given assistance. Over 30 firms in the region also operate under flexible work arrangements that affect more than 3,500 workers. Most of these companies are in the tourism industry. Samar province is closing several of its tourism sites amid local transmission of COVID-19. These tourist destinations include caves, natural parks, waterfalls, and rivers. The fast-moving infection is spreading more rapidly outside China, now affecting 114 countries. The World Health Organization says globally, nearly 5,000 people have died from the coronavirus. We want to show you this pie chart. You can see here that based on studies, more than 80% of people who get sick are able to recover. 15% or so suffer severe symptoms, including pneumonia. 5% are in critical condition. When we return, why we should prepare and not panic. We'll explain and how to fulfill our spiritual obligations in the age of coronavirus. This is a CNN Philippines special presentation. Just the facts.
With the novel coronavirus spreading in different parts of the world, many are asking questions about common terms related to the virus. One of the terms is self-quarantine. With COVID-19, the recommended period to self-quarantine is 14 days. Health authorities are advising anyone who may have been exposed to someone with a confirmed case of COVID-19 to self-quarantine, or those who have traveled to countries with confirmed cases of the novel coronavirus. It doesn't matter if you have any symptoms or not. And it also doesn't mean that if you are in self-quarantine, you're also automatically sick. The idea is to take that extra precautionary step. Anyone in self-quarantine is advised to stay in their own homes, drink lots of water, eat well, and sleep well. As much as possible, stay in one room, so you also protect the people you're living with. Avoid sharing food, towels, and utensils. Wear a face mask as much as possible. And if you experience any symptoms, go see a doctor. But first, alert your doctor about your condition to allow him or her to prepare. A person in self-quarantine should not be out and about engaging with other people. So, no work, school, and other social events and activities. Self-quarantine is about taking care of yourself and protecting those who are around you, just in case. Ruth Cabal, CNN Philippines.
Welcome back to a CNN Philippines special presentation. We're bringing you just the facts amid the confusion, the many questions about the government's emergency measures aimed at preventing the spread of COVID-19. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Thank you for joining us today. It was a much anticipated message from President Rodrigo Duterte. He started by appealing to the public not to panic. Our Trisha Terada has more.
Starting March 15, government will impose travel restrictions to and from Metro Manila by land, sea, and air after President Rodrigo Duterte placed the country under Code Red Sublevel 2. A Code Red Sublevel 2 means there's an increase in community transmission. Following the spread of the coronavirus, the president has imposed a community quarantine in the National Capital Region. This puts stringent social distancing measures for 30 days beginning March 15th.
For Manila, may ayaw namin gamitin yan, pero kasi takot kasi sabihin lockdown. But it's a lockdown. There is no struggle of power here. Walang away dito, walang gera. It's just a matter of protecting and defending you from COVID-19.
Malacanang also extends class suspensions in Metro Manila until April 12, but this doesn't mean there won't be schoolwork. Besides, students must strictly stay at home. Mass gatherings are strictly prohibited too. The president says military and police have an important role to play, but since there aren't enough of them, President Duterte has a stern reminder for barangay leaders.
Ang barangay captain is bound by what is written here. You better implement this, because if not, then you will also go to prison for dereliction of duty or simply not enforcing a rule imposed by government.
The president also suspends work in the executive branch. His suggestion: form skeletal workforces. Congress and the judiciary are encouraged to do the same. But he clarifies the military, police, and health workers and other frontline responders shall still be in full operation. Authorities are also encouraging the private sector to adopt flexible work arrangements. All manufacturing, retail, and service establishments should still operate during the same period, provided that strict social distancing measures are observed. To commuters out there, mass public transports like the Light Rail Transit, the Metro Rail Transit, and the Philippine National Railway are still available, but you must observe social distancing protocols. Land, domestic air, and domestic sea travel to and from Metro Manila shall be suspended until April 14, 2020. The president also said all measures are subject to daily monitoring and reassessment by the Interagency Task Force on COVID-19.
Hindi ito martial law. It is not a martial law. It's not even something extraordinary. Do not panic. Huwag kayo masyadong ma-stress. Let's help each other at this time of our life, because everything is placed in jeopardy. Delikado talaga. Totoo ito, crisis talaga ito. Kasi walang gamot.
Trisha Terada, CNN Philippines.
The threat of COVID-19 will upset many Catholic faithful with the so-called social distancing being implemented. It would also mean avoiding large gatherings in churches, Catholic churches. In a pastoral letter issued today, Manila Apostolic Administrator Broderick Pabilio says there will be no mass or any public activity in all churches of the Archdiocese beginning March 14 until March 20. That's tomorrow until Friday next week. Pabilio urges churches to ring their bells every 12 noon and 8 o'clock in the evening. He also calls on the faithful to pray the Rosary and the Oratio Imperata to fight the coronavirus, also every 8 in the evening. While there will be no celebrations of the Holy Mass, Pabilio says parishes and places of prayer or worship should still be open all day and should be regularly cleaned with sanitizers available at the entrances. We have on the phone the Executive Secretary of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines Public Affairs, Father Jerome Ceciliano. Good evening, Father. Thank you for taking our call.
Yeah, good evening, Pia. Good evening to all the televiewers.
So can you tell us more about this latest instruction, no? So wala na tayong mga holy masses, but the churches will be kept open. Can you give us a few more details about this, Father?
Okay, unang-una ito ay sagot, response ng simbahan doon sa panawagan ng iba't ibang ahensya ng pamahalaan na talagang paigtingin natin yung pag-iingat dahil yung transmission nitong COVID-19 ay mukha yatang hindi na natin makontrol. So kaya sa ganang simbahan, nagdesisyon ang Archdiocese of Manila at yung iba pang mga diocese na i-cancel na muna yung mga liturgical celebrations katulad ng masses at iba pa from March 14 until March 20.
Okay, so Father...
Sige
po, go ahead.
This is a developing situation and so therefore, beyond March 20, hihintayin natin kung ano yung mangyayari, magkakaroon ba ng improvement sa situation at titingnan din ng simbahan kung ano yung mas epektibong response din na kanyang gagawin. But of course, since may Sunday na tatamaan, ito yung March 15, that is a Sunday, ay dinidispense ng obispo yung Catholic faithful from observing the Sunday obligation.
Sunday Mass of obligation. Father, syempre yung Archdiocese of Manila, ang sakop lang niya, hindi naman yung buong Metro Manila, hindi po ba? So, but like we were saying earlier, all the churches in Metro Manila, yung ibang Archdiocese, nasakop yung iba pang areas ng Metro Manila, susunod dito.
Ang guideline na binigay ng Catholic Bishops Conference of the Philippines ay napakalinaw, Upon the urging of the DOH and the WHO na dapat daw na i-cancel muna, i-postpone muna yung mga public gatherings, ibinibigay ngayon ng CBCP yung discretion sa kanya-kanyang obispo sa bawat diocese.
Okay.
So yung mga local ordinary or the bishops for that matter, meron kasi naman silang tinatawag na legislative at saka executive power. So in a sense autonomous sila,
Okay.
So kung sa palagay nila ay yung sitwasyon doon sa kanilang lugar ay malala talaga and really the danger na nandoon ay magde-decide sila to cancel it. Kaya yung ginawa ng Archdiocese of Manila along that line. At ang alam ko din, ang Diocese ng Cubao, ang Diocese ng Pasig, sumunod na rin na i-cancel nila yung kanilang mga misa.
Ang Diocese of Cubao, ang sakop po niya ay Quezon City and...
Ang Quezon City, Pia, dalawang dioceses kasi dyan. Merong Novaliches, Diocese ng Novaliches at saka Diocese ng Cubao. Okay, ang Manila naman medyo malaki ito kasi ang mga cities na sakop niya ay Manila itself, Makati, San Juan, Mandaluyong, and Pasay. Okay, so bali 5 cities yan ang sakop ng Archdiocese of Manila.
Okay. What about Muntinlupa, Parañaque, Taguig, Pateros? Anong diocese po niyan? Pasig, Diocese of Pasig.
Ang Diocese ng Pasig covers Taguig, Pateros, yan ang mga nasasakupan niya. And then, itong Parañaque naman, Las Piñas, kasama din yan. Alabang, kasama din yan sa kanila. And then, itong itong Baclaran, sakop na rin ng diocese yan ng
Okay. At anong diocese po ang Caloocan, Navotas, Malabon, Valenzuela?
Ang Caloocan, Malabon, Navotas ay under yan ng diocese ng Caloocan.
Okay, Diocese of Caloocan. So you're saying, ang pagkaalam po ninyo, Father, ang sumunod na yung Diocese of Cubao at Pasig, and of course, the Archdiocese of Manila. So yung iba, pero I guess we can safely say that we expect na susunod din sila because, well, the entire National Capital Region is, well, for lack of a better term, under threat.
Yeah. Hindi natin mapredict, kasi ang malinaw lang na binigay ng CBCP ay ganito, It's up to the discernment of the local ordinary whether to cancel, to postpone, or to reschedule any public event or gathering sa simbahan. So now, if, for example, the local ordinary or the bishop of, let's say, for example, Malolos in Bulacan, sees fit to cancel all gatherings in this period, gagawin naman niya yun. So, not necessarily that they are going to follow the lead of the Archdiocese of Manila. But then, malinaw na galing yun sa CBCP na meron silang discretion to do it for their own diocese.
Okay. Father Jerome, like you said earlier, we will take this week by week. So, pag malapit na yung March 20, saka magpapasya ang CBCP at yung each diocese, no, kung anong gagawin. But given the situation, for example, the travel restrictions are going to be in place, although to be reviewed daily for a month. All these, yung mga paalala ng DOH at WHO, pinapag-practice talaga sa lahat ng tao. Father, what about Holy Week? This is a very big week for this very, very Catholic nation. No? So, April 9 to 12 yan, Monday, Thursday hanggang Easter Sunday. Pero meron po rin tayong Palm Sunday, April 4. What is going to happen? What are we looking at?
Meron ng ilang mga paglilinaw na ginawa dito ang Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines, particularly for some Holy Week activities. Yung unang ginawa niya dito, yung veneration of the cross that's being done on Good Friday. Ang sabi ng Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines dito ay, we refrain from touching the cross, from kissing the cross, or from wiping the cross with our handkerchiefs. Kumbaga sa veneration of the cross, ay kinakailangan na harapin mo na lang yung cross and then bow slightly. Parang pagbibigay ng reverence mo doon. And then, nagkaroon na rin ng cancellation about some other activities na katulad ng Way of the Cross, Kumpisa lang Bayan. So, kumbaga, may mga diocese na nag-cancel na rin ito. But we'd like to assure the public that even if yung Kumpisa lang Bayan ay kinansela na, hindi naman nangangahulugan na hindi na kayo pwede mangumpisal. If there is really a need for you to go to confession, you can always approach a priest and then make your confession. At ayon din sa CBCP, pinahihintulutan na rin yung mga diocese through their bishops na mag-implement ng tinatawag nating general absolution. Ang ibig sabihin ng general absolution ay yung mga tao andyan dyan, pero wala ng individual confession at magbibigay na lang ng absolution sa kanila. Pero dapat may mga conditions na ipa-follow sila. Number one, dapat sincerely sorry sila for the sins that they committed. And then, of course, ando dun yung dapat sila ay makapag-confess din after receiving that general absolution. And then, of course, ando dun yung make amends, na talagang magbabago din sila. Ando doon yung kumbaga motive na yung intention na yun. That after this one, babaguhin din nila yung kanilang sarili. So these are some of the conditions. Pero ibibigay yan, general absolution, because of the threat of coronavirus.
Yes. Father,
so hindi naman yan basta-basta binibigay.
Father, yung Palm Sunday, nagdadala po tayo ng palms sa mga simbahan on April 4. Meron din yung salubong, yung early morning salubong. Merong Easter Vigil Mass. So, like you were saying earlier, we're taking it day by day, week by week. We will see kung anong mangyayari by Holy Week, right before Holy Week. Malalaman po natin kung matutuloy po yung mga ganon, mga activities.
Yeah, that's correct, Pia. Okay. That's correct.
Okay.
Kaya tinitingnan natin kung paano ito mag-develop, mag-unravel itong situation na to. Okay.
Father, I'd like to end with this question, because after all, spirituality naman is not it is not meant to be an outward display. You're not supposed. I mean, it's not like you are on display and you're trying to impress other people. It is a very personal relationship with God that is important. So, whether or not you do the ritual, whether or not you go to a physical church, you can still observe Holy Week in your own homes, right, Father?
Definitely, definitely. And so, especially with the advent of social media, there are so many platforms wherein we can still celebrate the Holy Week. Right. Kaya nga, yung mga masses nga na yan, hindi rin madideprive yung faithful. Kasi meron mga Facebook Live, meron ding radio, meron ding TV station, TV Maria. So, available pa rin naman yung masses. It doesn't mean that priests will no longer celebrate Mass.
Right.
Ang context dito, yung public gathering lang.
Yes.
Yung kumbaga ina-avoid natin.
Right. There are online recollections. Si Cardinal Chito Tagle may online recollection. Yes. Si Pope Francis nag-online na rin he himself dissuades people from congregating. But we can, like you were saying, congregate in many other ways. Spirituality is not, it doesn't have to be an outward display of, and like, you know, like we all say, no, it's a very personal thing anyway, Father. So, Father Jerome Ceciliano of the CBCP, salamat po for talking to us tonight.
Thank you.
Still to come, private and public firms are taking the necessary steps to protect workers from getting sick. We'll take a closer look. Stay tuned to Just the Facts, only here on CNN Philippines. This is a CNN Philippines special presentation, Just the Facts. The anxiety, the paranoia, and panic are spreading faster than COVID-19. This is why today, before we head out to the weekend, we want to bring you as much information about the new measures the government is putting in place to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. Land, air, and sea travel restrictions in and out of Metro Manila will take place beginning Sunday, March 15. These measures will be in place until April 14, although the president said last night these will be reviewed on a daily basis. Classes in all levels will remain suspended until April 12. Social distancing is encouraged. Mass gatherings are prohibited. Local government units can impose localized quarantine as needed. And why is the National Capital Region being singled out? More than 70% of people with the novel coronavirus are from Metro Manila. Let's take a closer look at the numbers. Here's our Caroline Bonkin.
At City Health Department.
San Juan police are roaming around the city, warning residents about the coronavirus disease. They tell residents what it is.
Itong maging sanhi ng pneumonia, acute respiratory syndrome,
and how to protect themselves from getting infected. The city has the most number of COVID-19 patients in Metro Manila, totaling 9 from at least 6 barangays. 5 have no recent travel history abroad. 8 Makati residents have also contracted the virus. 6 of them have not been outside the country recently. Meanwhile, Quezon City has 6 residents with COVID-19. They're from different barangays. 3 have no travel history abroad. Pasig and Marikina cities each have 5 residents with COVID-19. It's unclear yet if Pasig patients are from different barangays. In Marikina, officials said their patients are related. 2 Manila City residents are also part of the local cases, while Mandaluyong, Las Piñas, and Taguig cities each has 1 infected resident. Nearby provinces are also recording cases. 3 residents in Rizal Province, 1 in Cavite, 2 in Batangas. Meanwhile, a town councilor in Negros Oriental who's been to Green Hills, San Juan, also tested positive of the virus. While many people are anxious to get tested, the Food and Drug Administration warns against buying unregistered COVID-19 test kits. These are the ones sold like home test kits. You'll not only lose money, but it will also leave you frustrated as it doesn't give accurate results.
hindi po natin alam kung saan galing ito, kung saan na manufacture, kung talagang nagte-test siya ng COVID-19.
There are only 2 government-accredited COVID-19 tests.
Itong mga test na ito, mga ginagamitan po ito ng mga sophisticated na makina at sa laboratory ginagawa.
Swab samples of people with travel history abroad or had been in contact with a COVID-19 patient are sent to the Research Institute for Tropical Medicine for analysis. The UP National Institutes of Health will also begin testing soon using a locally developed test kit. Caroline Bonkin, CNN Philippines.
We've been talking about the symptoms of COVID-19, and sometimes people mistake them for other common diseases. We want to show you this list that can serve as a guide. Experts say if you have, or if your eyes are itchy and you have a stuffy nose, that does not mean you have coronavirus, but probably just colds and allergies. It's a different case when you have coronavirus symptoms as they affect the whole body. Among the symptoms, fever, fatigue, body aches, and shortness of breath. A history of travel and possible exposure to people with COVID-19 should also be considered. However, symptoms and risks vary from person to person, and it's best to check with your doctor. Let's go back to our guest here with us, Jimmy Flora Cruz, former CNN International Beijing Bureau Chief, a longtime journalist and I would say, an expert on mass media and communication. Jimmy, let's go back to what you were saying earlier. No, words do matter. It's very important that apart from handling the crisis situation, which is the pandemic, the disease, the government must also handle the way it communicates, right? And why is that so important again?
Well, we know why they're trying to take these extreme measures, right? Time is of the essence, so we must understand that extraordinary time like this needs extraordinary measures. So I think the people will understand that, and the media, we in the media have a special role in achieving that. We through our stories, through forums like this, through explainers, I think we have a special role in telling and educating our public what to do, why, but also what not to do. And more important, to explain what the government is trying to do. We have that special role. If we can do that, then we can fight fake news. That's another important role that we play. We must make the public aware that there is fake news out there and that they should turn to credible sources because fake news leads to fear and hysteria. So we
and like you said earlier, that kills.
That kills.
That kills. Sometimes even more than the disease itself.
Yeah.
And fake news, of course, we're very concerned about that, and lalo na in this age of social media, where sometimes before they hear news from legitimate media, umiikot muna sa social media, and sometimes it is completely untrue or very misleading.
And it's hard. It sticks, and it's it's hard to kill it, just like the virus, or worse. So I think we need the public to be smart and discriminating when they hear of news, and we in the media have that special responsibility to make sure that we turn to credible sources. We should run empathetic stories about the doctors and nurses in the front line. We should, through our stories, we should tell what the government is doing, what the public is doing, what the professionals are doing. And that's the way to assure the public that this is under control and this will be over.
And that this too shall pass, like you were saying.
This too shall
Yeah.
pass.
You were also saying here in something you wrote down that it's very important that we have a balance between, and I quote what you say, between aggressive measures and social stability. Because after all, what's going to happen here is a disruption of our lives.
That's right. I mean, on the one hand, we understand why the government, why the authorities need to take aggressive measures, because it is a serious epidemic. But at the same time, they need to strike a balance to minimize the disruption in social and economic lives of our people. Also, on the one hand, they can't give a false sense of security and safety and sound like cavalier about the problem. But at the same time, then they must keep in mind that a lot of people are being asked to make sacrifices, and they should be minimized and mitigated.
So in a way, it is psychology. It's like if I were told, hey, Pia, we're going to disrupt your life, but this is what we have in store. This is plan A. This is plan B if plan A doesn't work. This is plan C if plan B doesn't work.
Yeah.
And don't worry, this is gonna pass. Sandali lang ito.
Yeah.
Be patient with us, but let's take it day by day. If I am talked to that way,
yes,
of course.
It's
yes, sir. No,
Yes, sir.
no problem.
It's like consulting a doctor. It's like talking with a doctor. You're sick. You're ill, and the doctor tells you what he thinks is wrong with you, and then he tells you, okay, this is what we'll do. Plan A, plan B. If it doesn't work, we have plan C and D, and you, the patient, will feel like, okay, I'll live through this, and I'll be fine. I think that's crisis communications.
Okay. Well, I hope we can have you back here in the next few days or the next few weeks. And I guess for your final words for us, well, a repeat, and we've been sounding like broken records anyway, and I like to say magaling naman ako magnag, no? So, paulit-ulit na lang tayo, no? There are things we need to remind people about. So,
Yes.
can you help us by reminding people?
Well, I think we all should be reminded about some basic things to do. You know, wash our hands, frequently, avoid big crowds. These are all temporary measures, but we need to follow the advice of the experts because they've been through this, they've studied this, and then finally, I think we need to have faith in the fact that science will eventually conquer this virus, as long as we are all in sync, as long as we are together, and as long as the communications is clear. I think you and I will follow gladly, and hopefully we'll go through this over time.
Yeah, we just need to do our part.
Yes.
Yeah, like the WHO rep was saying, we all have to be in this together. It is a whole of community approach. Hindi pwedeng gobyerno lang,
Correct.
everybody. And after all, this is our health that we're talking about.
Right.
So Jimmy Flora Cruz, thank you very much, sir, for being with us.
Thank you.
To help manage the growing concerns over COVID-19, the Labor Department is encouraging companies to carry out flexible work arrangements. For some, it means having employees work from home. Sandra Jalcita has more.
The country now reports a number of coronavirus patients, and health officials admit community transmission is possible. In response, the Labor Department has asked employers to adopt flexible work arrangements. This could mean fewer work hours, job rotations, or work from home.
Para sa ganon, ma-avoid yung possible exposure of our workers to yung COVID-19.
President Duterte signed the Telecommuting Act into law in December 2018, allowing private sector employees to work from home with the use of telecommunication and technology. The law gives employees working from home the same benefits.
It will not result to reduction of remuneration. It will not result into waiver of their other benefits like leave credits, sick leave credits.
Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello says employers can take advantage of the law now, but it is not compulsory.
This is an arrangement voluntarily agreed upon by both the employer and the worker. Kung hindi sila mag-agree, wala tayong magagawa.
A financial services company in Bonifacio Global City in Taguig is adopting work from home. Nearly 70% of its employees report only once a week, and it's business as usual.
We haven't noticed any levels of lower productivity at all. In fact, it's been good for us because we've been able to test our IT systems.
The company is also taking extra precaution, asking employees with recent travel abroad to home quarantine for 14 days.
It's not charged their leaves, yes. They're basically at work as far as we're concerned. They're just not physically present.
Meanwhile, government offices are now carrying out a 4-day work week. Workers can choose either to go to work from Monday to Thursday or Tuesday to Friday as long as they clock in 40 hours a week. The new measure covers all government agencies as well as government-owned or controlled corporations, local government units, and state universities and colleges. But an employer group is saying not all industries can adopt flexible work arrangements.
Manufacturing cannot, no? Because they have to be physically present in the plant.
While the coronavirus continues to hound industries, employers must activate mitigating measures to make sure business will continue and workers are protected. Sandra Jalcita, CNN Philippines.
We'll be back after a short break. Just how will these travel restrictions be implemented this coming Sunday? We'll take a closer look. Stay with us. Just the facts right here on CNN Philippines. COVID-19 is a real health crisis. All the worrying is understandable, but panic will cause more harm than good. Welcome to a CNN Philippines special presentation, Just the Facts. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Already, we're seeing panic buying and hoarding. Supermarkets, groceries are hit by a sudden rush of people very early in the morning and until closing to stock up on just about anything and everything possible. Our Rex Remigio has more.
If you're wondering food supply is enough in Metro Manila in the coming days, the Agriculture Department says you don't need to worry. There's enough basic commodities in the market. Travel to and from Metro Manila is suspended beginning March 15 until mid-April. But Agriculture Secretary William Dar says this will not hamper the movement of goods in and out of the metropolis.
Let's buy what is needed, goods say for 3 to 4 days, but not 2 weeks or more. There is enough food supply, let me assure everyone.
Government data shows Metro Manila is home to nearly 14 million people. And even with a travel restriction, Dar says rice supply can last for almost 9 months. In addition, government warehouses have a buffer for 80 days. The secretary also says there's enough pork, chicken, eggs, fish, vegetables, fruits, and sugar. And they plan to strategically position these in Metro Manila's markets. The Agriculture Department issues a warning to those taking advantage of public reaction to the pandemic. Retailers resorting to overpricing will face penalties. Dar also calls on residents to explore backyard farming. A trip to the Balintawak Public Market in Quezon City, a depot for produce from the Cordillera region, generally shows its business as usual. However, some retailers and consumers say they notice the impact of the travel restriction.
Bumamal yung kita kasi walang bumibili kaysa isa.
Para kain na lang ng prutas sa bahay, titigil. Doon na lang sa bahay, magstay, kakain ng prutas. Yun na lang. Tsaka ngayon, kaya ako na lumabas, naghanap ako ng alcohol. Wala akong makita kahit saan.
The department discourages buying in excess of one's regular needs out of panic, as this will cause an artificial shortage, which the Agriculture Department says might deprive other families of the supplies that they need the most. Rex Remigio, CNN Philippines.
When the president addressed the nation last night, he said he would seek the help of the military and the police to properly implement these travel restrictions in and out of Metro Manila. The hope, of course, is to prevent the spread of COVID-19, especially given that the majority of confirmed cases so far are here in Metro Manila. Our David Santos joins us live from Camp Caringal, which is the home of the Quezon City Police District. David?
Well, tonight, Pia, Metro Manila authorities giving us a preview of the security plans when the community quarantine order of the president takes effect this Sunday. Now, officials from both the regional police and military prepare about a dozen protocols detailing how the security cordon will be implemented. This has not been made public, but we've been told that among them, closing down all of the major as well as smaller roads leading to and from Metro Manila. This will include the North and South Luzon expressways as well as roads on the eastern and highways on the eastern side of Metro Manila, which of course connects to adjacent cities and provinces here in Luzon. Now, it is expected that vehicles will still pass through these blocked roads. Members of the PNP's Regional Mobile Force, who will be assisted by military units, will man checkpoints. The proposal will require motorists and passengers of each and every vehicle that will pass through to submit themselves to thermal scanning and even questioning. If Metro Manila Police Chief Police Major General De Bolsinas can have his way, there should be no exceptions to the protocols.
Kasi kung sabihin mo nga, lahat na lang exempted, baka lahat mag-apply ng exemption, parang wala lang. So hindi na kami mag-block. Okay? Yun yung purpose na i-block para to limit the movement of people. However, we are not stopping yung mga goods and services para hindi naman po magkagulo.
Aside from goods and services, officials have been saying there's also the question on what will happen to workers who live outside Metro Manila and come to the city to work in daytime. Now, as General Sinas points out, their proposals are still subject for approval from the PNP hierarchy in Camp Crame. Officials here are aware that these rather extreme measures will be met with questions and even objections. Now, they hope to finalize the security protocols at least by Saturday, since the order takes effect by the strike of midnight of Sunday.
It's a national security issue. Our way of life will really change because of this. There may be negatives, but I think there will also positives. Siguro napansin nyo, walang traffic ngayon sa EDSA.
The NCRPO will be deploying about 26,000 policemen, while about 3,000 soldiers from the Joint Task Force NCR Command of the AFP will also be deployed. Now, a sizable number of these soldiers and policemen will secure the checkpoints, but majority will still be deployed all over Metro Manila to ensure that there will be no breakdown of law and order during the quarantine period. Pia.
David Santos there reporting live. South Korea has almost 8,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19, but since the outbreak, the country has been finding ways to develop a test kit for the disease. CNN senior international correspondent Ivan Watson reports.
Since the start of the coronavirus outbreak, South Korea has aggressively tested for the disease. With the help of drive-through testing facilities that speed up the process, South Korea has already tested more than 220,000 people. The quick rollout made possible thanks to fast work by Korean biotech companies like Seegene, which gave CNN exclusive access to its research facilities. This is the laboratory where a team of scientists came up with the test kit for diagnosing coronavirus, and they did it in under 3 weeks.
When we starting, we did not expect this kind of the pandemic or outbreak happen in Korea. Nobody expected at all.
Chun Jong-yoon is the founder and CEO of Seegene, a company that designs and sells test kits that identify dozens of different kinds of diseases. In mid-January, Chun says he first instructed his researchers to invent a new test for coronavirus, which was then starting its deadly spread across China. So you guys were already working on coronavirus before the first confirmed case of the illness in South Korea.
Yeah, just hearing the news from the China, we thought it will be impact on the Korean peninsula, so we thought that it's emergency cases.
The molecular microbiologists got to work without ever having a physical sample of the virus. Instead, they relied on a genetic blueprint of the new virus distributed by the World Health Organization and health officials in China, highlighting 3 specific genes. Seegene's scientists then had to come up with a way of spotting those coronavirus genes in future samples taken from patients. Was there more pressure than usual?
Yeah, because it's an emergency case, rapidly spreading the coronavirus into our countries.
Not long ago, it would have taken Seegene 2 to 3 months to come up with a test. But using artificial intelligence, you were able to come up with a test in less than 2 weeks.
Right.
That's pretty quick.
Yeah, very quick.
Chun says on February 12th, the Korean government fast-tracked approval of the new coronavirus test kit less than a month after Seegene started working on it. These 6 vials, some of which only contain a teardrop worth of solution, are what you need to conduct tests on 100 patients for coronavirus. And that can be completed in just 4 hours. Seegene is now working overtime, even drafting scientists with PhDs to work on the assembly line. That's how much demand there is right now.
Yes, crazy demand. Not only from domestic market, also from the overseas market.
The demand is urgent because identifying coronavirus is one of the best ways to stop the spread of this disease. Ivan Watson, CNN, Seoul.
A beloved award-winning actor, Tom Hanks, and his wife, Rita Wilson, are recovering from the coronavirus. Hanks updated all of us on Instagram. The couple is in Sydney, Australia. They're thanking the medical team that's taking care of them. In his post, Hanks said they can get through the pandemic, especially by following advice from experts. We'd like to thank our guests for today. Jimmy Flor Cruz, former CNN International Bureau Chief in Beijing and now professor at Peking University and presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo. They both joined us earlier on in the show. Share the facts and not the fear. This is a CNN Philippines special presentation. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Thank you for watching.